From the foothills of Colorado, welcome to Raiders in 30, the podcast for the thinking fan. Great to have you. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Hope everyone's staying safe out there. And I think things are starting to look up. We're starting to see everything open up a little bit, in pieces. But it's coming. I believe we're going to have a season, and I believe we're going to have fans in the stands. I've always been an optimist. Nothing about that's going to change now. I think we're heading in the right direction. Hope you're all staying safe, and I hope you're all staying positive. One note before we get started. We're going to bring you our 3 topics this week as we always do. Looking forward to it. But this week, as I was looking for topics, there was a few things. I was kind of struggling to come up with several things to talk about. And the reason isn't that there isn't news out there. It's just that I don't want to parrot garbage news. I've seen other shows that have daily, for the past 2 weeks, been talking about how Aaron Rodgers is going to get traded to the Raiders. With teasing headlines like, oh, Raiders trade for Rodgers, what's going on? And I don't want to do that on this show. So what I want to tell you up front is there might be some weeks during the next few months where if I don't feel there's enough to talk about, where if I'm thinking, you know what, going on there and trying to force 3 topics, I don't want clickbait garbage. I don't want to keep repeating the same thing every single week. So there might be some coming weeks where I come on here and tell you, hey, you know what, at the end of the day, I only had one thing that I really thought was worth talking about this week, so we'll dive into that. And it might just be a 10 or 15 minute show at that point. Obviously, as we get closer to the start of the season, that's never going to be a problem. But I just want to make it clear, I don't want the show to turn into clickbait garbage or me just trying to force it. So for the next few months, if you get a couple episodes that are a little shorter, I'll be up front with you and say, hey, you know what? I really only saw one thing to dive into this week, and maybe we'll stretch it out a little longer and I'll do a little more digging than usual. But I wanted to give you that heads up before we get into it. But that said, let's get started. The schedule came out last week, and we're going to talk about the schedule, game to game. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to tell you what I think the wins are, what the losses are. We'll go from there. However, when I saw the schedule, here's what stood out to me more than anything. It wasn't the games. It wasn't that I think this is a nice, easy schedule, which I do. In NFL terms, no schedule is an easy schedule. But the easiest schedule in the NFL is still hard. So starting from that base, I think we have a generally easy schedule. But what that made me realize, being in Vegas, we are now one of the beautiful people. So be happy about that. Look, everyone knows this, okay? The NFL, to some extent, is rigged. I don't necessarily, I'm not trying to take that too far and, say we're dealing with a WWE thing here. But what I mean, it's very obvious the league has its teams it likes. It's very obvious that the league likes things to go a certain way. There's no doubt in my mind on that one. And if you're a Raider fan, I have a feeling you probably feel the same way. And even if you don't think it to an extreme, I know people who think, no, the games and the outcomes are literally rigged at the start of the season. I don't think it goes that far. I don't even think that would be possible. But I do think they have an agenda, and I think you can see that agenda playing out on the field. Here's what's great. Now that we're in Vegas, we're one of those favored teams. Because you have seen for the past several years, for the past decades, that we were a team every single year. We had the toughest schedule. We'd have the most miles traveled. And I know part of that's where we were located, but still. I don't have to tell you about last year's 5 straight road game schedule. Well, no, one of them was a home game, in London. I don't have to dive into that with you, obviously. I don't have to tell you that somehow we're the most penalized team in the league every single year. And for a long time, I'd point to that and we need to get more disciplined. What's going on? Is there a discipline problem in the Raider locker room? Then I stop and really think about it. Instead of just spouting, those bogus lines that you get from analysts and uncreative people, what if you stop and think and say, wait a minute. In the past 20 years, and we are the league leaders in penalties virtually every year, in that time, how many different head coaches have we had? How many different players have we had? How many different systems have we had? Now, I'll give you, because you might be thinking, but that uncertainty, that much turnover could, lead to discipline problems. And I don't disagree with that. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders, were top half of the league in penalties every year. But with that many people coming in and out, to be a leader in penalties every single year, you can't tell me there's not something that's up with that. You can go hard on the conspiracy theory and say the NFL has hated Al Davis ever since, he sued them. And maybe that's true. Maybe there is bias. I've read about the bias with the black jerseys. Maybe there's something to that as well. But at the end of the day, to me, it's more of a perception, and it's more, well, I know, I'm going to say it this way. It's perception, not just of the Raiders themselves and what they've done in the past, but it's perception of the Raiders as being the redheaded stepchild of the league. We're playing in Oakland, and no disrespect to the Bay Area, but let's not act like where the Raiders were playing. Let's not act like the stadium, was a prime spot. Let's not act like it was a main attraction. It just wasn't. We're playing out in Oakland. We're playing in a bum stadium that we're sharing with the A's. It's hard to get free agents to get excited about going out there. And on top of that, we haven't been winning. Now, you move us to Vegas. You take us from the worst stadium in the league to what's probably going to be the best stadium in the league. We've all seen it. We've all checked it out. It looks beautiful there. You go from a state where I don't know what the state tax in California is, but I'm sure people are losing a lot of money playing games there. You go to Nevada, an income tax free state, and you go to Vegas. I mean, what player doesn't want to be around that, for better or worse? Although I think that'll affect away teams more than it'll affect us. But when you look at everything we've done, when you look at where we've gone to where we are now, and to where we're debuting this year, look at the immediate differences that has made. Look at the free agents we got. I don't think we get Corey Littleton, especially on this deal if we're in Oakland. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that we get Quee. And maybe we do, maybe not. But I don't think for 1 second that the number of free agents we got, we don't get all of them if we're still in Oakland. We have to dig a little further, we have to dig a little deeper, and we don't get them for the contracts we got them for. Vegas is a big part of people wanting to come play. And not only that, obviously this team has done well. People believe in Mayock, people believe in Gruden. But at the end of the day, we've attracted newer players because of where we're located. We've gone from the redheaded stepchild to the team the league wants to feature. We have 4 primetime games this year. 4 of them. 25% of our games are in primetime this year, and that's damn good. That shows you 2 things. Number 1, the league wants to show off this team. And number 2, it shows you that this team's going to be pretty good and the league thinks they are. Because it doesn't matter if we're in the new Vegas stadium, even if we're in this new fancy stadium, if this team is terrible, if we're rolling out the 09 Raiders, they're not going to give us 4 primetime games. I mean, they don't want to put a garbage product out there. That means the league also believes in this team. In a past episode, I've talked about how what you're seeing now, is the culmination of a plan that comes together. And I was talking about Gruden and then Mayock and what they've done. And Gruden coming in and stripping the team down and getting through that first year and that first draft. Then bringing in Mayock. Mayock helps him from there. They make the trades. They get all the picks. And, Mayock does what he does in the last couple of drafts. And when I say a plan's coming together, that's what I was talking about then. Now, I'm talking about an even bigger plan. The NFL knew we were going to move to Vegas, and they knew we were going to have a killer stadium, and they knew that was going to be the new hot spot for sports. They saw it coming as well, and I believe part of this plan, I think the league has been waiting. They have been waiting for the Raiders to put together what it is they have put together right now. And they're excited for it, and I think you're going to start to see a few things going our way. You know those bogus calls you've seen in the past few years? Maurice Hurst roughing the passer on the most perfect form tackle you've ever seen in your life. Penalties like that, I'm going to make a bold call here. You're going to start to see those going out the window in Vegas. I'm not saying it's never going to happen because every team gets 1 or 2 bogus ones per year. The Raiders were getting 1 or 2 bogus ones a week. You're not going to see that anymore. There will be close penalties that you don't like and I don't like. I'll admit that. But those absolutely bogus penalties, the Maurice Hurst roughing the passer. Last year, Mullen got that pass interference on an interception against Kansas City, where I don't even know if he got a hand on the guy, and somehow it was pass interference. That's the kind of stuff that you're not going to see there. The NFL wants the Raiders to do well this year, and when the NFL wants you to do well, that changes things. The NFL likes Gruden. The NFL likes Mayock. I don't know what the relationship is with Mark Davis. Obviously, we know what it was with Al Davis. I could easily see a scenario where Mark had gone to the league in an off-the-record chat with Goodell and said, hey, listen, I know how things have been in the past. It's a new leaf. It's a new era. Let's turn this into something special. I have no doubt that some conversation to that extent happened. And that's what I think we're going to see this year, and I'm excited about it. And speaking of being excited and just looking at the schedule, let's go down the schedule. Let's run it from start to finish. Because I am someone who has said that I think this is a a 11 or 12 win team. I truly do believe that, and I know some people hear that and think it's a little crazy. However, we've talked about this. Teams don't improve by one game every year for a number of years. You don't go from 5-11 to 6-12, from 5-11 to 6-10 to 7-9. You don't just creep up a little at a time. You have a bad season. We went 4-12 a couple years ago. Then you go 7-9. Then, if things are going well for you and if you're doing the right things, you make that next leap to something like 11-5 to a 12-4. It's exactly what the Raiders did in 2016. They went from 7-9 to 12-4 after having some consistency and after making a few good moves in that offseason. And when I looked at the schedule when it came out, I saw the teams, I saw the games, the aways, the homes. I said, this is a schedule that we can do great and we can thrive with this schedule. So let's go break it down. Week 1 at Panthers, we're going to win that game, and I think we're going to win that game big. Last year, just a lot of close wins, really no blowouts. This is the year we're going to blow out some bad teams. Carolina, I don't believe in them. They don't have anything on defense. I mean, I think they drafted all defense. So that could be a great defense in a few years, who knows? But you don't come right out of the gate with an all-rookie defense and dominate. Teddy Bridgewater is a guy who has been called underrated so many times that I'm starting to think he's overrated. I like him. I'm not saying he's a bad player. However, let me give you the rundown of Bridgewater since he's been in the league. His same year, he was drafted the same year as Carr. And the funny thing to me is the people who hate Carr love Bridgewater. Well, let's look. He had 14 touchdowns, 12 interceptions year 1, 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions year 2. Of course, he got hurt after that and didn't play. He didn't play 2017. He didn't really see much time in 2018 either. Then this past year, he did step in for 5 games for the Saints, and he did a good job. I mean, he went 5-0, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and that's certainly not bad. But think about that Saints team. Think about the weapons. Think about a guy like Michael Thomas being on that team. And then ask yourself, okay, that's good, but is that elite? Did he step in and have an elite run? No. Teddy Bridgewater, what he was last year, was the best damn backup quarterback in the league on that Saints team that had, Michael Thomas, that has Alvin Kamara, etc. If you think he's just going to step in on the Panthers and be the starter with a very limited offseason program, and they'll be able to do some work this summer, but it's not going to be to the extent they were. They'd already be together working on things. That's not happening. You've got McCaffrey there as a weapon, great. They don't have any wide receiver that's in the same universe as Michael Thomas. He's going to come in, he's going to be expected to be the guy, and he hasn't proven that he can be the guy. But I'm ranting too much about one game. Bottom line, we're going to roll the Panthers. Then we have the Saints next week. And I've got to tell you, I really want to give us this game because it's the home opener, but I just can't do it. I think it's going to be close, and I think what's going to come out of that game are people saying, you know what, the Raiders are for real, they're ready for prime time, they were this close. Next week we'll go to the Patriots, we're going to win it, we're going to win in New England. I don't buy the East Coast garbage. We can't win on the East Coast, we can't win in that time zone. I don't buy that, and the reason I don't buy that is for all the talk about, look, people look over the last, 15 years and they point to that as evidence that, see, the Raiders can't win on the East Coast. In the last 15 years, barring one season, the Raiders can't win anywhere. All right, we didn't win on the East Coast, we didn't win in Central Time, we didn't win in Mountain Time, we didn't win in West Time, we didn't win internationally. So the idea that we can't win on the East Coast is, it's fallacy, because people are looking at it as though it's a single variable, and the variable being, we suck on the East Coast. No, we've just sucked. We have just sucked for 15 years, barring one season, where, as we said, we went 10-1 in one-score games, which, probably was a bit of a fluke. Let's be honest. The 2015 team was probably a little better than the 2016 team. We've gone over that. But at the end of the day, we just weren't good. Other than that one year, we just weren't good. That's why we haven't won on the East Coast. The Patriots aren't just going to slide in, the next QB, and it's going to be the same Tom Brady situation. And I know some of you kind of laugh because you've heard, well, Bri, you're not a huge Tom Brady fan, and I'm not, and we'll get to that, at least not modern Tom Brady. But again, if it's Tom Brady or all of a sudden expecting Hoyer or Stidham to be your starter, yeah, that's a big difference. That's a very, very big difference, especially, Brady's been in that system for 2 decades. So now you're going to bring another guy in and say, okay, it's your team, go. Anyone who thinks the Patriots are just going to run out to 10-6, 11-5 again, it's not going to happen. Bet the under on that. Week 4, Bills at home. We're going to beat the Bills. They're a good team, but look, so are we. Okay. Then we go to Kansas City. We're going to lose at Arrowhead, but We'll get back to that later. Then we have the bye. We go into the bye 3-2 after starting, pretty tough schedule. I mean, we play the Panthers, then 4 straight playoff teams. 3-2, not bad. After the bye, we're at home against Tampa. I think we're going to beat Tampa. Listen, modern day Brady, I just don't believe in that much. If he was still on the Patriots, I think we'd probably lose that Pats game for the reasons I just said. But here's the thing. The Bucs, you don't just take a 43-year-old quarterback, which will be when the year starts. You don't just take a 43-year-old quarterback, plug him into a new team, a new system, and say, okay, well, now he's just going to dominate. Tom Brady's not going to come out and throw 50 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and just flat out dominate. It's not going to happen. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, just can't grip that. And it goes back to what we've talked about many times. It's the idea of the Madden fan. Because you know what? If you play Madden, you take that Bucs team and then you just trade for Brady and put him in there and autoplay the season. Yeah, he's going to dominate. This isn't Madden, though. It doesn't work that way. Brady's not going to come in there day one and just dominate from that system. And I got to tell you, I'm not even that bullish on the Bucs this year. I think you're looking at about a 9-7 team over there. Call me crazy. That's what I believe, and I believe we beat them. At Browns, believe we beat them. I don't think the Browns are a good team. The Browns are the difference between the modern Browns and the Raiders of that post Super Bowl stretch right up to about 2015. That horrible 10-year stretch. We think it's bad now. No, you guys remember that 10-year stretch. It was unwatchable. The only difference between those Raider teams and this Browns team is this Browns team has a little more talent, but really, look, we had Randy Moss. They have OBJ. I mean, I'd take Prime Moss over Prime OBJ, as would you all. But they don't have consistency. They don't have the culture of winning right now. They're flipping coaches. They're flipping coordinators. All their guys are upset. I think the Browns, they're going to tank again this year, and they're going to have a lot of questions to answer at the end of the year. Think of how many picks the Browns had for all those years and just did nothing with it. It's really a shame for them, or for the fans of Cleveland, I should say. I would like to see them have a good football team. It'd be nice to have a playoff rematch. I think it was the Red Right 88 game. If I got the play right. I'd love to see a rematch like that. Week 9 at Chargers, I think we're going to win that. I think this is a stretch of the season we're going to win big. I don't believe in the Chargers. I just really don't. I know a lot of people do. I'm just not one of them. I'm not afraid of their quarterback situation. I keep hearing about their elite defense. But, I've got to be honest with you, for all the talk I hear about that elite defense, I kind of keep coming back to, okay, well, they were healthy when we played them last year. In the first game, they were missing Derwin James, but they still had their big guys on the end, Bosa and Ingram. We shut them down. They got James back for the second one. We still did well against them. So I think the Chargers, we'll win that game. Week 10, we've got the Broncos. I think we're going to beat the Broncos. And then week 11, that's at home. And then week 11, we got the Chiefs. This is the game we're going to beat the Chiefs. We're going to go on a nice 5-game win streak coming out of the bye. And then we're going to get to Atlanta next week. We're going to feel good about ourselves and think, yeah, we should beat these guys no problem. And we're going to lose that game because we're going to be a little too high off the other games. And hey, that happens. Then we've got the Jets the week after that. And then we've got the Colts the week after that. I don't know which one of these games we lose, but I think we lose one of them. I might say we lose the Jets, even though I think we should beat them, but it is a little tough to get that 34-3 memory out of your head. They've made some improvements as well. So I think after a 5-game win streak, we drop a couple in a row. Then I think we come back and beat the Colts, the Chargers, and the Dolphins at home, 3 in a row. I think we're going to take all those. We're going to have a pretty damn good home record. I've told you my feelings on the Chargers. The Colts, when is Phillip Rivers running that team? I'm just not scared. And then the Dolphins, I think the Dolphins made a lot of on-paper moves this offseason. When I say that, they've made a lot of signings and it sounded great on paper, but was it really? Was giving Byron Jones, $17-18 million a year really a good move? Was giving Brandon Flowers $10 million? I've mentioned my wife, who's a Giants fan, on the show plenty of times. I don't think my wife would sign Flowers for $10, let alone $10 million a year. The Dolphins, they're going to be, long term, they're going to be better. They did well in the draft this year, but I don't think the Dolphins, they're going to be that good this year. I think they're still going to they have another couple of firsts going into this year. I think you're still going to be looking at a team that has a couple of high picks. And then last week at the Broncos, you know what? Probably be snowing, probably be freezing, and I think we're going to end up losing that game, and that's going to put us at 12-4 on the season. That's where I'm taking it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm too optimistic, I'm too optimistic. But I'm looking at the schedule. I think we start 3-2. We come out of the bye, win 5 straight, lose a couple, win those 3 at home, lose on the road in Denver, 12-4, and I think we're looking at a bye. I'm feeling pretty damn good about this schedule. And if you look at it, we talked earlier about Raiders going to Vegas and all of a sudden becoming the it team of the league. Think about last year's schedule, the road games, the travel. Think of all that. And then look at this. This is at Panthers, then home against the Saints, at New England, home against Buffalo, at Kansas City. So right there, that's not that bad. We don't have two away games in a row. And yeah, you know what? We have 3 games that are East Coast start times. Again, you know my feelings on it. To me, it's bogus. The reason we have struggled on the East Coast is because we haven't been a good team. It's not a single variable issue. And we've also played some good teams. Who are some teams we play on the East Coast? We play the Chiefs every year on the East Coast. They're a good team. In the past, we've played in Miami. There in Miami, when it's super hot, we haven't played well either. When it's been very humid, that's also been a problem. So I don't think it's a single variable issue. But then coming back, we have a home game. Then we have 2 on the road. Then we come back, we have 2 at home, 2 on the road, 3 at home, 1 on the road. No bogus 3-4 straight games, no home game in Mexico or in England or wherever, nothing crazy. We have the bye at a good time. I'm feeling good about this team and about this schedule. And another one of those reasons I'm feeling good brings us to the last point here, and that's the idea of the AFC West being the most stacked division. And one of the things I keep hearing is that the AFC West is completely stacked. And for that reason, it's going to be really hard for the Raiders to get out of there. Here's the thing. The division might be stacked, but the idea that it's so stacked and the Raiders are behind, that I don't buy that idea. I don't buy it at all. And what I wanted to do was basically look at the teams, look at the 4 teams in the division, look at the positions and say, okay, well who's the best? And this week I'm going to do the offense. Next week we'll dive into the defense a bit. So let's look at it offensively. Let's go through positions, position groups, and let's see who's got the best. So first, starting at quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the division. No one's going to debate that. At least you shouldn't. I've heard the argument made, and I've even made the argument to some extent that, okay, but understand Mahomes does have a ton of weapons around him, and that certainly helps him, and it does. But let's not act like if Mahomes didn't have all those weapons, he wouldn't be good. Mahomes is the best. But the second best quarterback is Derek Carr, and it's not even close after that. Just stop with the Drew Lock. Just absolutely stop. If I have to hear one more just panicked Raider fan telling me about how Drew Lock is a stud because he went 3-1 at the end of the season, and somehow that means he's the next Mahomes. I don't want to hear it. Stop. Drew Lock right now is not in the same league as Derek Carr. Will that change in the future? Well, we'll find out. Right now, the clear-cut second best quarterback in this division is Derek Carr. How about running back? Okay, the best running back in the league is Josh Jacobs. Excuse me, the best running back in the division. He's getting up there in the league. There's a few guys still above him, but he's working his way. The Broncos might have the best situation as far as depth goes. They've got Lindsey, they got Freeman, they signed Gordon. So yeah, that's a pretty nice group. But at the end of the day, the best running back in this division is Jacobs. He's better than Gordon, he's better than Freeman, and he's a guy that just changes the game. And when you're not going to be able to stack the box against him, which you're not going to be able to do that this year, not with the guys we have on the outside now, it's going to be a little tough for people to slow him down. I'm expecting a killer year from Jacobs, the true offensive rookie of the year. But who's got a better running back than Jacobs in this league, in this division? And even if the Broncos have more depth at the position, there's nobody in the division you'd rather have as your starting running back than Jacobs. So we've got the second best QB in the league. We've got the best running back in the division. Excuse me, I keep saying the league. Let me correct that once and for all. In the division, we have the second best quarterback and we have the best running back. Let's go to the offensive line. None of the teams in this division have a better offensive line than us. Our starting 5, Miller, Jackson, he's still the guy. Hudson, Incognito, Brown. We got more depth. We got Simpson in the draft. We signed Cush, etc. This offensive line is the best in this division. The Broncos don't have a better line than us. The Chargers certainly don't have a better line than us. I know they actually made a trade for a totally decent guard, and it was a good move, but they didn't address the position in the draft. We know they went with Hebert, and then they came up later and they got Ken Murray, but we'll talk about that next week. But the point being, again, nobody's got a better offensive line in this division than us. All right, now, let's actually do this. Let's jump to the tight end group first. Best tight end in the division? Probably Kelsey. If we're being fair, you'd probably say Kelsey is that guy. I think at the end of this year, we might be having the debate about whether or not it's Kelsey or Waller. But right now, today, you'd have to give the nod to Kelsey. But there's two things I'll say to that. One, it's close. And number two, okay, who's the tight end after Kelsey on that Chiefs team? Nobody that I can think of, and nobody worthwhile. As far as a group goes, there's no group in this division, and maybe actually in the league, that's going to beat Waller, Moreau, and Witten. That is a damn good tight end group. So I'll give the Chiefs the best individual tight end, but as far as the best tight end group goes, it's our guys, and it's not even close. So far, and we're going to get to the receivers in a second. So far, second best QB, best running back, best O-line, best tight end group. And I don't think any of the thing I've said is debatable. Nobody's going to debate that Carr is the second best in this division, except for the kind of fans that we like to talk about, the kind of fans who don't listen to a podcast for the thinking fan. They'll try to tell you Drew Lock is a legend because of 3-1. We know. You and I both know. It's Derek Carr at number 2. We have the best running back. We have the best O-lineman. We have the best tight end group. So let's go to wide receiver. Now, this is the one that's hardest to rank simply because there's so many things we don't know. We don't... Look, we just added 3 offensive weapons, in Ruggs, Edwards, and Bowden. We don't know what they're going to look like on the field. We have our thoughts about it, but we don't really know. We know that as of right now, you probably have to say the Chiefs have the best wide receiver group in the division, just because that we know what they are and we know what they can do with Mahomes. So that's fair. I'll definitely say that. After that, I don't know who's the next best. The Broncos added Judy, obviously, and with Cortland Sutton over there, so they've got a pretty good group. There's no doubt about that. The Chargers, I don't know. The Chargers wide receivers, Keenan Allen's great, but how many games is he going to play? You really just never know year to year how many games Keenan Allen's going to be healthy for. And on top of that, the only guy I can think they added was that kid out from Virginia in the 5th, Reed. So I'm probably putting the Chargers wide receiver group last because other than Keenan Allen, they got Mike Williams. Not that scared of him. And again, at the end of the day, I don't trust anyone on the Chargers to stay healthy. The Chargers injuries are supposedly fluky. The Chargers have to stay healthy as a team 1 year for me to believe in that. So I'm putting them at the bottom. I'm putting the Chiefs at the top. Between us and the Broncos, again, it's hard to know. I'd probably give the edge to us, but I'd be willing to at least listen to arguments. But when you think about what Ty Williams can do when healthy, when you think about Hunter Renfrow, and we love him, when you think about what Ruggs is going to do on the field, when you think about a guy we have like Aguilar, who is now our 5th wide receiver. I love Aguilar as the 5th receiver, as a guy who can just come in and make some spot starts for us out of the slot. When you think about a big physical guy like Edwards, and when you think about what you can do with Bowden, where you can run, everything you could do with a guy like that. And I know he's going to be more of, they call him the Joker, so maybe you wouldn't necessarily count him in the wide receiver group. But if our wide receiver group is Ruggs, Ty Williams, Edwards, Renfrow, Aguilar, I like that group more than the Broncos have, and I'm giving us the second best in the division. So to break it down, I haven't said anything ludicrous. I haven't said anything unfair. We could have a debate about it, and I'm certainly willing to listen, but nothing I have said is, well, hold on a second, you got to calm down there, you're going nuts. No, absolutely not. In this division, I'm giving us the second best QB, the best running back, the best O-line, the best tight end group, and the second best wide receiver group. I don't buy for 1 second that all of a sudden this division is too stacked for the Raiders to hang. No, we are going to be the team in this division, and it's still the Chiefs, I get that. But I think we can catch up to them, and I think we're going to beat them this year, and I even think we might finish above them. I'm not one of these guys willing to concede the division in May. A few too many people are, unfortunately. I'm not one of them. If you're listening to this show, you're probably not one of them. You're probably feeling damn good about the season like I am. That wraps it up this week. Thank you all. Next week to week, I'm not sure what the format's going to be for the next few months or how long it's going to be. Again, I don't want to force topics. I don't want to come out here and just repeat the same thing again and again. I don't want to get desperate and push garbage rumors. I just don't want to do that. So we'll go week to week for now. Usually something pops up, but if not, I'll give you a short burst just to keep, just for something. And then, of course, as we get closer to August, that's not going to be an issue. Stay safe, stay positive. We're going to have a season. Don't sweat it. This has been Raiders in 30, the podcast for the thinking fan. Everyone have a great day. We'll talk soon.